Okay, this is for leaders who are just finding distractions are just unbelievable, right? And they actually cause us to be unhappy. So when we talk to happiness researchers, they say there's a myth to happiness. And yet the fact of happiness is that when we're distracted, it leads to unhappiness. So today we're going to talk about focusing with brain wonder. So just taking some time, like how does this thing work between our ears? What can we do to really optimize it, make it focus on what's important, to see what's beautiful out there in this world. So just like this image, just take a deep breath and let's just focus so you can change the world with your gifts. When we're distracted, we're unhappy, we're not in a solution-based thinking. Okay, I just heard a wonderful presentation by Fawn Weaver. She's the founder of Uncle Nearest, Tennessee whiskey, and she's doing amazing things. And she stated that, your worry brain is not your solution brain. And she's so right. That's exactly what we know with neuroscience is that when we're worrying, we're not in our solutions. And, one thing we need today is people living in their solutions, having their brain kind of turned up to solution level, not in just worry zone. Okay. So how can we just stop for a minute and think about what are distractions doing to us? How are they taking our joy? How are they taking our ability to see solutions? How are they taking our ability to not live fully in our gifts? Everybody has this beautiful brain between their ears, and you have certain gifts to bring to this world. And really, my goal is to bring you neuroscience insights so that you can just boost those gifts and use them every day to really change the world. We need a lot of people living fully in their gifts because we have a lot of people in the worry zone, in the scared zone, in the stuck, frozen, because there's so many changes going on right now. So feel free to put your first name in the chat. How did you choose this? Why did distractions speak to you? What's going on? What's the latest with thing that's distracting you? There's a long list, right? So there's a wonderful happiness researcher by the name of Dr. Sonia Lubomirsky. And her book is called The Myths of Happiness. And she teaches us through all her research that distracted is unhappy. And we have what's called an attention economy these days, where we have just so many open doors and windows. I like to think of it, like the brain has like every door and window open, and just so many people are trying to get our attention. And we just buy into this myth that we have to do so much and have so many of our doors and windows open and just let everything into our brain, as opposed to saying, nope, that's not important to me now. I'm going to focus only on this area. And so her research really supports that we really fall for this myth that busyness is happy. And we know we're busy at work, right? A lot of people say like, how you doing at work? It's like, I'm toast. I'm toast. I can't do another thing, right? And so we know that people are really busy, but you're rock stars and you're full of solution-based thinking when you can get into that zone. But if the brain is in the busy, distracted, worry setting, it's not solution brain, right? So we need to make sure we can help our brain get into solution mode by trying to get out of that busyness mode. Okay, so today, this is for busy leaders who want to help other people, you want to feel creative, you want to acknowledge, your own accomplishments, that you have certain degrees, you've learned about things, and you want to fully use them, right? You want to use your gifts, but you also want to keep growing and learning because that is where our happiness is. The other thing Dr. Lubomirsky teaches us is that really the good news is it's in the goal pursuit. So it's really we feel the most happy when we're trying to make something, we're trying to build something, we're trying to figure something out. Because during that time, we're usually looking for resources, working with others, really focused on what's important to us. So we have to remember that happiness is really in the goal pursuit if we believe happiness researchers, but that's what they do. That's what they study. And we really, we all want some guidance on our next steps. I don't like to waste time or energy. I like to know, like, what does the research show us? And I'm going to use those tools, So that's why I built BrainFresh, just to share resources with you. because I wanted things differently. I wasn't okay with the status quo. I saw a lot of people frustrated after being in professional life for so long, um, even not long at all, because it's kind of they feel like they're floundering. It doesn't matter. The busyness, the, distractions, it just all seemed opaque. They weren't sure what to do next. They weren't sure what was important to them. Their goals seem kind of fuzzy. One of the women docs I coach said, and one of them that I'm just coaching currently, I love this. I said, we were talking about what it could be like and what she's after and what her dreams are. And I said, how would it feel if we hit those? And she said she would feel relaxed and rich in a sense of feeling full and fulfilled and peaceful. So I love that. So that's why we're working together just to get her to that point. But we want a safe place to explore these things, right? And we want to feel support and when we're scared, because it's scary to learn. There are emotions that come up when we're learning something, but we also want to do good work. We want to make a difference. We want to make this world a better place. But we personally also want to feel valued, right? So that's for you. If you're these things, I get you. I'm the same. I also want to grow and learn, but I do want to feel valued. And I also want to share resources with you to bring insights and strategies so that you can learn and then you can implement it. I love learning and I love reading, but I also like the doing because we really need to change the status quo and give people more options. So cultures are like a deep iceberg. This is from an organizational culture model where there's things we see at the top, like let's say you're in a healthcare setting, you would know because there might be white coats or there'd be stethoscopes or certain, people getting pushed by on a gurney, those beds with wheels, maybe people in wheelchairs, maybe, pharmacies inside. And so, like, oh, this is for healthcare. And there's norms and values in those environments, right? But the things that are deep, that are harder to put your finger on, harder to figure out in certain environments, are the assumptions and belief of different cultures and different environments, like let's say healthcare compared to banking, compared to tech, compared to, a solo entrepreneur. There are assumptions and beliefs in different environments, and we have to know what they are because they're determining our actions, because culture really kind of drives our own actions. So I also think of culture like this picture of the mud, that our culture is like full of whatever's in that water. So there's plants, there's roots, there's nutrients, there's things that are decaying in that water. There's beautiful flowers. The lotus flowers are trying to grow there, and some are budding. Some are open and beautiful, and I'm sure there's some that didn't make it. There's some leaves that are just dying and they're older. And so when we're thinking of distractions, we want to take a minute and think, number one, how many doors and windows do we ourselves have open? How many channels do we let people come in and just, when I was at work one day, I counted 12. When I'm home, I also have multiple phones, doors, windows, pets, family members. So we all have things kind of coming at us. And how do we determine at any one time how to say no or how to close the door to certain things? One thing I started doing is putting my phone on gray screen. So you do that by going to settings, then go to, this is if it's an iPhone, go to settings, then go to accessibility. See, accessibility, then go to display. You can see that. And then you can go to color filters. Looks like that. And you hit on, and then it's gray. And it's really something because it's just kind of boring. It just looks, here, I'll show you. Looks dark and boring, you know? And so, which is good because you don't want your phone to be too exciting because it's taking your dopamine, and your dopamine's like, oh, what's that? That's colorful. That's exciting. That's new. So in Brain Fresh, I like to teach you ways to work with your brain to get some insights and then to implement, how to work with it. So we know that if we have very colorful, exciting things, brains want more attention. You say like squirrel, like people say squirrel. So how do you focus? How do you close things off? Well, one thing you can do with your phone is put it on grayscale. Try it out. Let me know. Put grayscale in the comments if you're going to try. Or if you already did, you like it. It helped me like knock an hour off my phone time. I could use an hour a day, Sure. Why not? Okay, so what's it like for, let's say I'm in medicine. Okay, so what's it like for us? So we hear about high stress environments, lack of control, gender discrimination. That's the culture again. That's the water, that's the mud in the water and the flowers trying to grow. But yet, if you look, there's a lot of great outcomes for women docs. They're adhering to clinical guidelines, they're doing preventative care, cancer prevention, and building partnerships with patients, spending time with their patients. So a lot of good stuff is happening in that culture. So can you remember that day that you're like, oh, I have my first job, you're so excited. And then, the years go by and you're like, I just hoped for more. I was looking for more opportunities. I feel kind of stuck, or like we said, fuzzy goals. You're just stuck in that muddy water there. Like, what's going on? What's next? What's exciting? What are you learning? What brings you joy? What brings you energy? What feeds you? And that's okay to look for something that sounds exciting or um, energizing for you. Okay, so what's the problem? We can feel overwhelmed, we can feel confused that we don't have time to even think about what our next steps are. We can not feel confident, we can feel like we don't have the priorities. We're floundering, fuzzy goals, like my one of my clients, my coaching clients said. So really, maybe the first thing you do when you're trying to bust your distractions is to think of all the open channels that you have in your life, both at work and at home. And do you ever give your brain just time for quiet? Quiet. Do you always have earbuds in? Are you always listening? Is there always input? Because the brain has, some parts of it that need to kind of file, if you want to think about it, like a file room. People put papers in a file, or how you organize your files on Google Drive is, we need to file, like we had various experiences, we need to put them together and associate them and remember them. So the brain needs to do some things on off time. But the brain is very busy, right? It's managing your whole body. It's managing all your organ systems, remembering everything from your whole life, and then planning for your tomorrows, helping you right now. So the brain is very busy. So maybe on your distraction journey, the first thing are three things. Number one, think about how many doors and windows that you have open. How many ways can people gain access to you? So for me, might be my multiple phones, emails, literally knocking on the door. All kind of ways at work. When I'm home, it's like, how do I structure my day? Is it just wide open for anyone to come in and take my attention anytime? Or do I say, like, I'm working on something, just give me an hour? Do I set boundaries with my own time with people that I'm around? Do I answer emails all day or do I work on a project and only answer emails in a batch system? So how about you? What do you do? How often do you just have wide open channels to your attention? That's number one. So just assess the numbers of things that work and home or anywhere else you spend time. And number two is the grayscale. Are you going to try it? Did you try it yet? What did you ever put your phone on grayscale? And put gray in the comments and let me know, just reach out to me in a couple weeks. Let me know if you tried it and if you knocked off some time, some phone time, because that's working with your brain because our dopamine really loves something different on the phone, something exciting, the unknown, the little prizes, the colors. It's just like a slot machine. They design phones like slot machines in Vegas. So we can drive, like we can take control back and just put our phone on grayscale. Okay. And then the third thing, so first one is how many open access channels at home and work. Number two, grayscale. Number three, quiet. Do you give your brain any time for quiet? Because that's its file time. We have something called a default setting in the brain. So that's when we're kind of daydreaming. We're not sleeping and we're not actively cognitively doing anything. So are you ever in default mode setting? Are you ever just staring out a window or just chilling? Let's say you're in a car, you're not talking to anyone, you're not driving. That kind of thing, you're just like looking out the window, but you're not driving. Okay. So one is how many open channels how do you control your attention? Or do you? Number two, grayscale. Number three, just that default setting. So that's a setting of our brain where we're not asleep, but we're not active. You're not cognitively active. You're just literally looking out a window. You're daydreaming. Give yourself 10 seconds of doing that, hopefully minutes, you get up to minutes, hopefully multiple minutes if you're not doing it at all, because that's the time your brain kind of, files and gets things together. Okay? You got this, guys. All right, you're just like that muddy water. We just got to figure out what's in there, what's driving the show. All right, so you don't have to feel overwhelmed or like you're floundering. If you're a woman doc and you want to jump into one of my programs, I have a free webinar on Saturdays. I have a 5-day challenge coming up. I one-on-one coach women docs who are thinking about a business or thinking about what to focus on next. Or if you already started a business, then we give it a tune-up. So just reach out if you have any questions. You got this. Okay, guys? All right, all the best.